Now, our next topic is the hidden cost of ACL return to play decisions. Who decides and who pays? An anterior cruciate ligament injury is no longer just a medical issue. In modern professional sport, return to play decisions involve coaches, medical staff, performance department, club management, insurers, and ultimately the athlete. Our next speaker has spent his career at the intersection of sports science, injury rehabilitations, performance organizations, and elite athlete development, helping bridge the gap between scientists, evidence, and real-world decision-making. Please welcome to the stage Dr. Vladimir Puzović.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you for announcement. My name is Vladimir Puzović. First of all, I want to give a big thanks to the Edward for inviting me here, then to his assistant, young lady Corana, for helping with everything. You already read the topic. It's going to be a little bit about the ACL, about the injury. I'm going to try to avoid too much of the medical stuff, to try to introduce you maybe from a little bit of financial perspective of this injury. To shortly introduce myself, by the basic education, I'm a strength conditioning coach. I have the PhD in sports medicine. I've been lecturing on the topic of the ACL injuries, tendinopathies, spine injuries, literally all around the globe in more than 40 countries. I used to live in a few countries. I'm the editorial board member in the few top-level medical science journals, so I think I'm quite into this topic. Since I'm in the sport, I've been also brokering a little bit, have my mainly coached in more than 50 countries. There is not China over here. I had more than 100 coaches in the academies in China, and that was, let's say, a main business for quite a time. And then let's talk a little bit about the ACL, one of the most dangerous injuries in sports, and one of the injuries which mainly stop the careers of the athletes. What's actually the role of the ACL? The main role of the ACL is to stabilize the knee, to limit the front movement of the lower leg, and to limit the rotation. If the athlete doesn't have the ACL, or if the ACL is ruptured, in majority of the cases, if we are speaking about the athletes, the surgery is necessary. Avoiding the surgery, even in the partial tears, is going to bring the athlete quite soon with a re-injury, which is usually the severe one. The biology actually tells us that after the surgery, the new ACL, the graft, needs up to 2 years to fully recover. Obviously, we cannot put the player 2 years out of the court because immediately we stopped the career. So we are trying to speed up a little bit, but what's going on nowadays in the field is that we are actually speeding too much, and we are not allowing that ligament to fully recover. So, if we're speaking about the young athletes, this injury is not so common in the kids who are 14 years of age or younger, but it's happening in certain cases. What you have to know, if it happens to the kid, we are speaking about a completely another level of injury, because the kids are usually not operative. The surgeons are not able to operate them, because when the surgeon is operating the ACL, he is drilling the bones, and if the growth is not finished, the surgeon is going probably to damage or to limit the growth of that extremity, of that leg, which in the cases when we are speaking about the injured kids, we probably have to wait for a couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years for the surgery. During that time, because the knee is usually unstable, the meniscs get really damaged, and so to to make it short, when the kid is injured, we probably speak about the end of the career. There are certain protocols in Australia trying to treat the kids non-operatively, but those as well have the negative sides and they are not successful every time. When we speak a bit about older players, so 25 years of age and younger, majority of the cases are happening in those players. And what's unfortunate thing is that in 1/3 of those players, the re-injury is happening quite soon. And when we are speaking about the re-injury, we usually consider the period of 2 years post-surgically. So if we have the injured player and we say, let's say 35% of the athletes get re-injured, it means in the next 2 years. So the next 2 seasons, the athlete is under the high risk to get injured. And I've been questioned this, I'll talk about this, but I think it's important to make like the big point on this. Don't push the player after the surgery to get back to the court before the 9th month of the surgery, of the rehab period. So here is the table taken from made from the transfer market data, and you'll see that the ACL and the knee injuries together, they are making more or less around 1/3 of all injuries in every league. If we take just the ACL injuries, depends from the league, it's going from 20 to 30% of all the injuries. And yeah, that's more or less the age also. You can see, if you check the age, you'll see that the majority of the players, the average value is that we have the injured players in their top age of the playing career. If we speak about the costs, again, you can actually see the data from the transfer market, how huge are the costs made by the ACL injury, and I'll speak a little bit later how actually is easy to prevent the part of those injuries, or actually how it cost us the way less than the problem it's made. And now the main thing is actually how long is the recovery period. And if we have the injured player at day 0, you have to know that usually we need 2 to 6 weeks to prepare the athlete for the surgery. Usually it's not possible to operate the athlete immediately, and if we do not follow the protocol preparing the athlete, meaning wait for the effusion to go off, then to have the full range of motion, to work of the strength, especially to work of the muscle hypertrophy, because after the surgery we have the strong atrophy of the muscles. If we don't respect that part, usually we have the significant problems after the surgery. After the surgery, there are different phases of the rehab, but mostly we need 8 to 12 months after surgery to fully rehab the player. And this is in the cases if we do not have any complications going during the rehab, and usually we have them a lot. Especially, and I'll talk about that as well, especially if we have the people who are not competent in rehabbing the athletes. About the costs, how it costs, I want you to take a look on the total value. The good rehab and the athlete being operated by the good surgeon and fully follow the protocol, it can go up to 30,000 euros. And at the moment I'm speaking about the Serbia, I'm fully aware about all the prices, and we don't count into it the salary and the other things which the club is losing because the player is actually not playing, plus if you need to sign a new player. So broken down for Serbia, more or less around 100 euros is a medical checkup, the consultation with the surgeon. Then we have the MRI scan, the up to 6 weeks of the preoperative period and one preoperative control with a surgeon. Usually we need them more, like even up to 4 or 6. The surgery and then the rehabilitation period with the case that we don't have any complications, which leads us to the total cost in Serbia, and I lowered it a little bit, thinking like you have the connection with the surgeon, you don't get the highest price, you have the connection with the coach, you don't get the highest price, but you have to be aware, if we're speaking about the top level players, these costs are usually the way higher, because if I take the top level athlete to do the recovery with him, obviously I'm going to charge the way more than to a kid who is under 20, who is just entering into the sports career. About the recovery time, what are the studies showing is, if, to make it really simple, if you push the player to get back to the court before the 9th month of post-surgical period, you have the 7 times more chance that the player is going to be re-injured in the upcoming 2 years. So basically, if you're pushing the player to get back at the court fast, you're potentially or highly potentially increasing your costs because that player is going to be re-injured soon. And we have actually the data, because I'm listening a lot. I recovered my athlete in less than 6 months. Studies are showing that all the athletes who returns at the court in less than 5 months, all the athletes literally, they get re-injured really soon. The next surgery, I don't want to go deep into the medical part, the next surgery is then really complex, because what's going on is that the surgeon is not connecting the ligament. He is replacing the ligament with the other part of the body. So basically the surgeon is taking the tendon, patellar tendon, putting in the knee. What's going on? We are damaging this knee, so the player is going potentially to suffer from the tendinopathy. If we have the re-injured player, then there is a question from what part of the body the surgeon is going to take apart. So he's going to damage probably the hamstrings. We need the hamstrings in a football. Or he's going to damage the same knee. Then there is a question where he's going to drill it in the knee, because the knee is already damaged. So what I want to say is we want to do our best to avoid the new injury. And usually if the new injury happens, we need at least 12 months post-surgically to rehab the athlete, to consider him fully recovered. What does it mean? 2 injuries, it's already 2 years, it's probably lost career. There is something as I would call the hidden multiplier in this, and actually I made a little bit business out of it. I'm holding these seminars about the ACL injuries, tendinopathies, spine injuries, how to recover them, and I had a lot of them, like more than 20 in the last year. The thing is, I'm lecturing over here at the College for Sports and Physiotherapists. What I want you to be aware of, we are teaching the students the rehab courses in our schools, faculties of sports, coaching colleges, faculty of medicine, but we do not touch with a single lesson how to prevent or how to rehab this injury. So there is a high chance, unfortunately, of course there are good examples, I'm speaking about the Serbia, there are good examples, but there is a high chance that the local physio or local strength conditioning coach doesn't have a clue how to prevent this injury and how to treat it, which you got to consider. And probably the red flag for you when you go back to the club and check your coach is simply to ask, how did you screen his knee this season? Because if I have the top level athlete and I have a talent, I want to screen his knees. By screening, I don't mean simply doing the MRIs. I think that we have a lot of motor ability tests which we are doing with the athletes to check if he is going to be potentially injured or not. One of those tests for you is the measuring the difference between the hamstrings and the quads. If the hamstrings are weak, there is a high chance that that athlete is going to be injured soon. How many of the athletes get back to the sport? What you have to know, around 50% of them get back to the pro level or go back to the same level. When we are speaking about the older athletes, if I can say the older, like 30 years or plus, the high percentage of them cannot get back to the same level of playing as they were before the injury. Also, I think it's interesting for you to bring this out from this lecture is this is mainly non-contact injury. Up to 70% is a non-contact injury. Only around 25% is a direct collision which caused the ACL to be teared. What does it mean for us? If the injury is non-contact, it's the coach who is guilty. The coach, before of all, the strength conditioning coach, because he didn't make a good load management program during the preseason, during the season, or whatever stage of the year it is. We have a lot of good examples. We have a lot of bad examples. Don't count sad Kolashinac. I think I put a wrong case over here. And you always see if the athlete is rushing to get back to the court, that he is going to follow, as I would say, the science, and it is that he's going to be injured quite soon. Because what's going on? Simply, when the surgeon put the ligament, the new ligament, into the knee, the strength of that ligament is not following the strength of the muscles. The ligament, for example, in the 4th or 5th month, post-surgically, the ligament itself is the weakest at that moment. We have the athlete who is already getting into the running, who have the high self-value at the moment. He thinks he is able to get back to the court, and the muscles are really strong at the moment because we are doing the strengthening, right? But the ligament in the knee is the weakest at that moment. So again, it's another thing that we gotta wait for the full recovery. Here is just the example of the top level player and the cost for the club. It's easy to calculate. What you got to also have into the equation is that the player, the club, or the agent, whoever is in the deal, is also, beside the salaries, the cost treatments, is also losing the money because the player, if we are speaking about top level players, is losing the potential money from the sponsors and the similar deals. So, who signed the return to the player, or who is involved in the decision? We have, first of all, the doctors, the surgeons. But what practice shows us that after a few months, usually the athletes don't want to go and visit the surgeon again. Then we have physios coach, head coach, and let's say the management of the club or the agent. We already have the cases when the players are suing even the coach, even the club members, for being speeded up to get back to the court. And I have the personal case. I've been recovering the athlete, the basketball athlete from New York. He was in a severe car accident. The spine was broken. The recovery was going really good. Obviously, he stopped playing his sport. He got back to Europe to study. And he was also speeding up his process. There was a big trial behind all of the scene. Luckily, every time I was writing the texts, don't speed up. We do not run. You're not allowed to run. And at one point, he was scanned again by the surgeon. They did the X-ray. The spine was rebroken. Obviously, I was involved in the trial, what saved me, and I'm advising you as well, that I was documenting literally everything. And then surgeons from the States were at my side, that I was, let's say, smart enough to document everything, and I was excluded from the trial. I'll skip this one. It's actually speaking the same thing. So let's speak about a little bit of local market. Let's say you have the player who is playing for 2K a month, and the injury is broken down. The money is broken down, and how much actually cost you the potential injury? How much money is involved? And I made the calculation for the bigger salaries as well. So how actually costs you to prevent the injury? It can cost you the zero, because the FIFA programs are free. There are other prevention programs that are free as well. Hiring the strength conditioning coach specialists who understand this injury or the ACL, let's call it ACL consultant, though that term doesn't exist in a real practice. And just the prevention can be free, or the total program for the team can cost you the way less than one injury itself. Before signing the players, again, it's the advice for the club management, check with your staff. Did they do the screening of the knees? What kind of the tests? Or even during the season, do they do the testing of the knees every 4 to 6 months and checking what's going on with the athletes? Or is just the observational method and saying he's good, he's not going to be injured? During the recovery, monitor the process, document everything, and use the criteria which should be used to go in the next step of the recovery. And after the return to the court, follow your athlete, follow the load management, because the next 2 years are usually really risky for the injury to reoccur. I'll skip this few. I'm going to the last slide. I'm not going to torture you anymore. So there are a few things I would like you to pick up with you from this, let's say, short lecture. The ACL is not just a medical problem. It can bring you the legal liability, and it's obviously the big financial cost. Early return, pushing the player to get back quickly to the court usually means the new big costs. It's a non-contact injury in the most of the cases, which means we can do a lot to prevent it. Liability, I already said that, and take care about the return of investment, because if you are, even if you're an agent and it's your player and he has the strength conditioning coach, you got to speak with the coach and the player. Is he checking up your knees, or is just, I would say, the observational, he is good, he's perfect. Thank you for listening me. If you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Vladimir. Any questions?
No questions from the floor. No, we don't have.
Okay. Thank you, Vladimir. This was the Vladimir Puzović presentation about the ACL injury and medical issues about them. Thank you very much.